Throughout my entire life, education has played a major role in shaping who I am. From the moment I began to speak, curious questions would fill my mind. Why doesn't glue stick to the bottle? How do planes fly? And why do sociocultural constructs still exist when so many people are fighting oppression? Okay, maybe not that last one. But I've tried to learn more about these things and find answers until my three and a half year old mind was satisfied. When I turned 4, things began to change. It was the beginning of pre-K. Now, while most kids were super excited to go to school, make new friends, and do arts and crafts, I was outraged. My mother had to drag me out of bed at 7 a.m. in the morning and force me into an itchy uniform. And the worst part of it all was the dreaded nap time. All that being said, however, I really did enjoy school as a child, and I made some pretty great friends and learned a thing or two, despite the early morning wake-up call. A few months into that year, I developed some pretty serious acid reflux, so my parents decided to pull me out of school. For the rest of that year, I was homeschooled, which mostly just meant coloring in coloring books, playing pretend, and going to the playground. This continued throughout kindergarten, until finally in 1st grade, it was time to go back to real school. The rest of elementary school was pretty great. After moving to Hyderabad in 6th grade and switching schools yet again, middle school was probably one of the toughest experiences that I have been through. Copying notes off of a blackboard for 8 hours a day, rarely seeing sunlight, and reading, rereading, and rereading yet again, only to cram information into my brain to regurgitate onto a piece of paper for 80 marks was not my idea of a good time. I was not in the right mindset. I began to approach school as if it were a competition, looking at only the numbers and the grades. I had lost that passion for learning that I once had. During these years, I was always super stressed out, anxious, and super unhappy. My mental health was deteriorating and began to have negative consequences on those around me. In addition to worrying about all of the normal teenager stuff like homework, acne, and friends, there was this constant voice in my head screaming at me 24 hours a day. The best way to describe anxiety is this. Imagine being sad, tired, fatigued, sleepy, and just done with everything. Now, instead of being a rational human being and getting some rest, you decide to drink 2 cups of black coffee and get right back to work. That is how I feel a lot of the time. In 7th grade, frequent panic attacks and trips to the emergency room were always knocking at my door. After about a year and a half of this, I had had enough and would not stand for it any longer. I didn't always want to be stressed out, didn't want to constantly be worried about a number on a 1 to 10 scale, but rather rediscover that love for learning. I wanted to be homeschooled once again, and after much research, presented the idea to my rather reluctant parents. Despite not succeeding at first, after multiple attempts, much coaxing, and many a statistic, they eventually agreed that this was the best option for me. There was only one problem. India doesn't officially recognize homeschooling as a viable option. I was devastated. This picture that I painted in my head began to fall apart. But one day after school, I was watching a TEDx talk by Logan Lamont called Why Hackschooling Makes Me Happy. I was thrilled and immediately took to the interwebs to learn more about this educational phenomenon. Through hackschooling, you are in control of your own education. There are no hard and fast rules, and no idea is too crazy. Everyone hackschools differently. To me, this meant going to a brick and mortar school once a week to finish up general education requirements, but the rest of the time, I was free to do the things that I wanted to do. So halfway through 7th grade, I was hackschooled. For 3 hours a day, I would do all of the normal school stuff, math, science, social studies, the works. But the rest of the time, I was free to do the things that I was truly passionate about. I read more and painted more than ever before, because for the first time, I actually had time to read the books that interested me and create art that I was satisfied with. My mental health and anxiety started to get better too, as I didn't have to worry about the constant deadlines. Through Hackschooling, I was able to rediscover that passion for learning that I once had. This continued until the beginning of freshman year, when it was time to go back to the standard education system. This time around, however, I was much better equipped to face the challenges of the education system, going in with that Hackschooling mindset that I had developed over that previous year. Now, for the 8 hours a day that I am in school, I pay attention in class and do whatever work is assigned. But the second that bell rings, I allow myself to explore the areas that interest me, create art that I'm happy with, read books that enrich my life, and work on projects that are truly meaningful to me. Furthermore, I twist and bend assignments to incorporate ideas and interests that are personal to me. For example, in history class, we had to write a 2,000-word research journal about a significant cultural change in history. Now, of course, one could write about something standard, like the caste system in India, the evolution of language, or even the British monarchy. But I was thinking like a Hackschooler. I wasn't particularly interested in how Latin came about, or the British monarchs. Sure, they're both very important topics, but they weren't important to me as an individual. What I cared about was biryani. So I wrote a 2,000-word research journal about the evolution of biryani in India and its cultural significance in Hyderabad. The look on my teacher's face when I turned in that journal was priceless, and I actually ended up doing pretty well on that assignment. Moreover, I learned that sometimes it's important to prioritize mental health over an essay or an assignment. By being able to relax and not constantly worry, my mental performance stays strong when I need it to the most. Over time, I've learned that we as students can take control of our own education. I was able to break the boundaries of traditional education in order to enlighten myself about the things that were really important to me. Through Hackschooling, I was able to break expectations, and through the Hackschooler's mindset, you can too. This is all you need to do. Every day, ask yourself these 3 questions. What is it that I want to do today? What do I want to learn? How do I want to improve myself? Once you ask yourself these 3 questions, go out and find answers. But remember, this isn't a competition. You are learning only for yourself. And never, ever forget that passion that led you to this exploration in the first place. When passion and childlike curiosity are at the center of the learning process, education becomes a wondrous joy. We may not be able to change the education system, but we can change our mindsets. We can change the way we think, the way we act, the way we respond to and take control of situations. By doing so, you can create a more positive learning environment around you, both now and in the future. I have been putting this mindset into practice for the past 3 years now, and am now happier and more productive than ever. Now, I work on projects that I'm truly devoted to, twist and bend assignments to incorporate things that I love, learn for the joy of it, and take control of my education head-on. Through Hackschooling, I overcome any challenges that are thrown my way and seize every opportunity. I changed my mindset and found my happiness. Go out and find yours.